what would you do? And I heard Zig Ziglar tell a story once about fleas. He said that the average flea can jump about 16 inches off of the ground. Just 14 to 16 inches, they can really get high. But if you take a bunch of fleas, put them in a 6 or 7 inch canister, keep the lid on, after a couple of days you can take the lid off because the fleas have reconditioned themselves. They won't jump out because they've been jumping up and hitting their heads on the lid. And I think one of the things, and we were just talking about it over coffee, that entrepreneurs, we have to learn how to kind of go through these processes and go through these situations and not lose our fight. Because when you go through enough, sometimes you get something called failure reprogramming. So Dr. Richard Brody wrote a book about viruses of the mind. And in that book, he talks about something called a meme, which is M-E, that's the E, M-E, a meme. And he says that a meme is simply a belief system. It's a way that you learn based on the environment that you've been immersed in. So that's why some entrepreneurs struggle longer than others, because they're in an environment where they immerse themselves around friends who don't necessarily support their efforts, or when they fail, they say, that's it, it's time to try something new. Now I'm going to ask a real bold question, and I really want you to be honest. How many have failed this year, at least once, in something? How many have made a mistake? At least one mistake. I usually make 2 a year, so I've already made my 2, so I can't make any more for the rest of the year. But in reality, we all go through this thing that failure tries to reprogram us to stop us from going to the next level or achieving that next threshold of success that we should have. And there are 3 things that we can do that can help us overcome failure reprogramming. Number 1 is we need to decide it's a have to, not a want to. Now this is when you're taking something from just a hobby to your obsession. Literally, when you look at people who are ultra successful and they've achieved things and they've overcome a whole lot of obstacles, these are usually people who've given themselves to their craft. It's not just something they do here and there. When you talk to people who are really into design, they live in design. They breathe design. They see it's kind of like that old commercial, the world looks really good to me, a Tootsie Roll is all I see. When you're in a situation where you're immersed in something, everything you look at reminds you of what you're obsessed with. For you, when you go in the store, you're looking at handles and going, oh, I could do that. You know, you can see the design and everything that's around you. So that's number 1. You have to decide it's a have to, not a want to. Number 2, you have to quiet the self-critic. Now, I'm not talking about the part of you that says, hey, you know what? Did you give your best? Did you do your all? Not that. That's encouragement. I'm talking about that part of you, that voice that we all have, that when nobody's around, you sit there and go, can I really pull this off? And a lot of times it's hard for us to admit that, but that critic is usually wrong. And we have to get in front of the mirror, whatever our processes or our methods are, we have to really begin to quiet the critic and say, you know what, I'm surrounding myself, I'm in a different environment, I'm immersing myself in my design, I can do this. My wife and I wrote a book, 50 Affirmations for Next Level Living, because I believe that affirmations are such a powerful thing. To hear yourself say what you can do, it's an awesome thing. And we're taught from birth, believe it when you see it. But it's really the other way around. You'll see it when you believe it. And it comes from intuitive, it comes from your heart. And the third thing is, you have to connect with mentors. That's why we're here. The power of a mentor. I believe that you learn things one of 2 ways. You learn things by your mistakes or others' mistakes.